The colossal chamber hummed, a low thrum that vibrated through the very bones of the assembled dignitaries. Crystalline structures, colossal and multifaceted, refracted the light of a dying star, painting shifting patterns of crimson and violet across the obsidian floor. The air, thick with the scent of ozone and the subtle metallic tang of fear, held a palpable tension, a pressure cooker ready to burst. Upon the central dais, bathed in the harsh glare of the central energy projector, sat the Grand Arbiter, his 6 eyes, each a kaleidoscope of shimmering emerald and sapphire, fixed on the holographic projection that dominated the room. A shimmering, swirling vortex of data, representing the enigmatic species known only as humans. They were the subject of this gathering, the focus of the Galactic Concordat's most urgent and terrifying deliberation. "The reports are contradictory," the Grand Arbiter intoned, his voice a resonating drone that echoed through the vast chamber. "Their actions defy all established protocols of engagement, their technology primitive, yet their resilience, their capacity for adaptation unprecedented." A ripple of unease spread through the assembled dignitaries. Representatives from the Krill Collective, their chitinous bodies gleaming under the artificial light, clicked their mandibles in agitated unison. The ethereal, energy-based beings of the Xylar conquered, their forms shimmering like heat haze, pulsed with a nervous energy that was almost visible. "They are a threat to our established order," a guttural voice rasped from the Krill delegation, the speaker's exoskeletal plates clicking ominously. "Their presence disrupts the delicate balance of the galaxy. Their unpredictability is a cancer that must be excised before it spreads." A wave of murmurs and nods swept through the assembly. The Krill, known for their militaristic tendencies, had always viewed any deviation from the norm with suspicion. The humans, with their strange, illogical behaviors and their penchant for self-destruction, were anathema to their ordered, hierarchical society. The Xylar delegate, a shimmering cascade of light, shifted subtly, its form rippling. "But to eliminate them prematurely," the ethereal voice responded, its tone cautious and measured. "Would it not be prudent to understand their motivations, their capabilities, their potential for alliance, or conversely, their capacity for destruction?" A chorus of conflicting opinions erupted. Some argued for immediate annihilation, citing the humans' apparent disregard for galactic law. Others, including representatives from the more diplomatically inclined societies, advocated for cautious observation, a period of study before any definitive action was taken. The debate raged, fueled by fear, uncertainty, and the underlying, unspoken anxiety that gnawed at the heart of the Concordat, the unsettling feeling that they had stumbled upon something truly, profoundly different. The holographic projection flickered, displaying a grainy image of the human vessel that had first entered Concordat space. It was a crude, angular craft, a stark contrast to the sleek, elegant ships favored by the other galactic powers. Its design was utilitarian, efficient perhaps, but undeniably unrefined. The sensors had struggled to penetrate the ship's defensive screens, yielding only fragmented data. What little they did gather was baffling. The power readings were low, yet the vessel had shown remarkable maneuverability, capable of abrupt changes in direction and velocity that defied known physics. "Their communication protocols are fragmented," the Grand Arbiter continued, his voice laced with frustration. "Their language, a cacophony of guttural sounds and complex, seemingly arbitrary patterns, is almost impossible to decipher. Their attempts at diplomacy have been chaotic, marked by inconsistencies and a disturbing lack of predictability." The Krill delegate clicked its mandibles again, a sound that could easily be mistaken for impatience. "They are savages, barely evolved. They should be dealt with, and quickly." The room was a pressure cooker, the arguments colliding in a cacophony of fear and disagreement. But a silence started to rise, a hush of uncertainty. A voice, not a physical voice but a mental one, was projected to the core leadership. A deep, steady vibration that seemed to emanate not from the speaker but from the very structure of the building. The Grand Arbiter's eyes widened and the room grew colder. A telepathic wave had been unleashed. The Krill became silent. This was the voice of the negotiator of the Galactic Concordat, a power that held supreme sway over the Alliance. A voice of ancient lineage, power, and wisdom. "Their potential is great, or so they say." The Grand Arbiter knew that this meant the humans could be of use to the Alliance, or the universe itself could be in great peril. He pressed for silence in the room as he spoke to the collective mind of the Council. "They possess a commodity, a technology, a treasure." The Grand Arbiter was speaking of the humans, "and they are willing to part with it." The hall fell silent. The air grew still. the voice continued to speak with the power of the universe itself behind its projection. It is the key. The Grand Arbiter and the Galactic Concordat were not able to understand the message. This was something bigger than them, something more powerful than the most powerful weapon. Something more secretive than the most hidden star system. Humanity is the way. The Grand Arbiter knew, even before the meeting ended, that the decision had been made. The humans were no longer just a potential threat. They were a potential resource, a key to unlocking some unknown power or technology. And like all valuable resources, they were to be acquired. The Krill, along with their fleet, would be in charge of acquiring the humans, and the Galactic Concordat had decided to auction the humans off to the highest bidder. An auction to begin in the Galactic Grand Bazaar, a place known for its ruthless competition and its vast, unparalleled collections. The thought of this was already terrifying, to sell a whole species like chattel, but it was a necessity, and the Galactic Concordat knew that this was the only way. The Grand Arbiter was also the only one who realized that this was not a normal auction. The words highest bidder were literal. The currency was not a material possession, it was a trade, a sacrifice, and the humans would be the offering. The Krill fleet, a swarm of predatory warships, arrived in the human solar system. The human ships, in comparison, appeared laughably inadequate. They were outnumbered and outgunned, their primitive technology no match for the advanced weaponry of the Krill. A message was broadcast, a demand for surrender. The human response was unexpected. Instead of surrendering, they deployed a series of probes, small, unassuming devices that swarmed around the Krill warships, studying their shields, their weaponry, their tactical capabilities. These probes were the first sign of human adaptation, a sign of their ability to predict and evolve. The Krill, arrogant in their technological superiority, initially dismissed the probes as a nuisance. But the probes continued, their relentless analysis disrupting the Krill's battle plans, their shields, and their ability to attack. They were analyzing, observing, and taking notes. The Krill, used to fighting enemies that followed predictable patterns, found themselves bewildered by the humans' unconventional tactics. The probes were followed by another surprise, a broadcast, this time in the Krill's native language. The voice, clear and concise, transmitted from a single human ship, a vessel that appeared to be the equivalent of a scout ship. The message was simple. We are not your enemies, we seek understanding, but we will defend ourselves. The arrogance of the Krill was shaken. The Krill commander, a hardened veteran who had seen countless battles, found himself momentarily disoriented. He had expected a fight, a swift and decisive victory. Instead, he was faced with a calculated, rational response, a plea for diplomacy delivered by a species he had previously dismissed as primitive. He could not understand the humans. "How dare they?" he snarled, his mandibles clicking with fury. But then, as he watched the probes continue their relentless observation, a flicker of doubt crept into his mind. He ordered his fleet to hold their fire. The human ship, the only one to actively engage the Krill fleet, had deployed all of its assets for a defensive posture. The humans, against all odds, managed to destroy a significant percentage of the Krill fleet by taking down their shields. On the bridge of the human ship, the captain, a woman named Eva Rostova, watched the unfolding battle with a calm detachment. Her face was etched with the lines of experience, but her eyes, the same blue that could be seen across Earth, revealed a quiet strength. Around her, the crew worked with a quiet efficiency, their movements precise and deliberate. Rostova had anticipated this conflict, studied the history of the Krill, their tactical preferences, and their technological weaknesses. It was a gamble, she knew, but she had to show the Krill that they were not to be trifled with. "Report," she said, her voice steady and controlled, the voice of someone who has stared death in the face and laughed. "Shields holding at 80%, the tactical officer reported. "Enemy vessel losses at," he paused, doing the math, 30% and increasing. Rostova nodded. "Maintain fire discipline, target their command ships, they are the key to their fleet's operations." "Aye, Captain," the tactical officer responded. The Krill commander, watching the battle unfold from his flagship, was stunned. The humans were not only holding their own, they were winning. Their tactics were unorthodox, but their execution was flawless. They were using the Krill's own vulnerabilities against them. He had underestimated them. He had thought that they were primitive, that they would be easy to conquer. He had been wrong, terribly wrong. He knew that the war against humanity was an entirely different matter than the ones the Krill had fought. They would need a far greater force to be able to overcome them. Back on the human ship, Rostova was already thinking ahead. This was only the first step. The krill, she knew, would not be easily deterred. They would return, and in greater numbers. This was only the beginning of a long and difficult war, but the humans, as she knew, were ready. They had faced adversity before. They had survived countless challenges. They would survive this one as well. "Prepare for jump," she ordered. "We need to regroup. We need to prepare." As the human ship accelerated to the threshold of lightspeed, leaving the wreckage of the krill fleet behind, Rostova stared at the stars. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of possibilities, and the humans, she knew, were ready to embrace them. The auction was a spectacle. The galactic Grand Bazaar was a swirling vortex of alien life, a riot of colors, sounds, and smells. The wealthiest and most powerful beings in the galaxy had gathered, eager to bid on the prize, the humans. The auctioneer, a hulking, reptilian being of the Zarn Empire, stepped onto the stage. He was known for his ruthless efficiency and his booming voice, a voice that could command attention across the entire bazaar. "Welcome, esteemed guests," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the vast hall. "Today we have the distinct pleasure of presenting a prize unlike any other, a sentient species, a species of potential, the humans." The crowd erupted in a cacophony of excited chatter. "The bidding will begin with a simple offering. The humans, they are to be bought," he explained. The bidding began and quickly became a frenzied affair. The krill, humiliated by their recent defeat, were among the first to bid. They offered vast resources, technological advancements, and even the complete subjugation of a lesser species. The Xylar conquered, eager to understand the humans' potential, countered with offers of scientific data, cultural exchanges, and a pledge of non-interference. The auction went on, fueled by greed, ambition, and a genuine curiosity about this enigmatic new species. The auctioneer, delighted by the intense competition, was in his element. He called out bids and offered commentary. The price of the humans, he declared, was higher than he had ever seen. The price that the human race was fetching was unlike any other. The humans were going to become someone's property. On the command ship, Rostova and the rest of the crew watched the proceedings, their faces grim. They understood what was happening. They were being sold. Their fate, their very existence, was now in the hands of the highest bidder. But they were not defeated. They had a plan. They would not go quietly into servitude. As the bidding reached a fever pitch, a newcomer entered the auction. The negotiator from the Galactic Concordat, having made his decision, was now present in the auction. He placed the highest bid. The negotiator's offer was far and beyond anything that had been offered before. His bid was one of unimaginable power and complexity. An alliance, a commitment to protect the humans, and a promise to give them everything they desired. But there was a condition. The humans must learn, must adapt, and above all, they must become an integral part of the Galactic Concordat. The auctioneer paused, momentarily stunned by the offer. Such a bid had never been made before. It went against the very nature of the auction, but the negotiator was not to be denied. He was, after all, the most powerful being in the galaxy. The bidding came to an end. The humans were declared to be the property of the Galactic Concordat. The auctioneer turned to the holographic display, which showed the image of the humans' ship. The winners, the Galactic Concordat. On the human ship, the crew watched the news with bated breath. "We have been sold," the communications officer announced, "to the Galactic Concordat." A wave of relief washed over the crew. They had been spared. They had found an ally, but as Rostova knew, this was only the beginning. The Concordat was powerful, but it was also riddled with internal conflicts and political machinations. They would need to be careful. They would need to understand their new allies and their new world, and they would need to prepare for whatever lay ahead. "Prepare for contact," Rostova ordered. "It is time to meet our new allies." As the humans made their way to the planet designated for their integration into the Galactic Concordat, a wave of apprehension swept through the crew. They were leaving their home, their planet foe, or an unknown future, and they would be in contact with the galaxy's most powerful force. The Concordat had an agenda and an intricate political structure, which would pose a new set of challenges to the humans. They had to learn fast and adapt to their new environment. As they got ready to dock at the Concordat station, a representative of the Xylar Conquered, the most diplomatic faction of the Alliance, greeted them. She was a being of pure energy, her form shimmering like a heat haze. She introduced herself as Envoy Lyra, and extended a telepathic greeting to Rostova. "Welcome, humans. The Concordat has eagerly anticipated your arrival," she said. Rostova returned the greeting, her mind filled with a sense of wonder. She was meeting an alien, a being that did not resemble anything she had ever seen. And yet she felt a connection, a sense of empathy. "We are honored to be here," Rostova responded. Envoy Lyra then proceeded to explain the Concordat's structure and their role. The Concordat is a union of various species, each contributing their unique skills and knowledge. As members, you will have access to technology and information. Your role will be critical in shaping the future of the galaxy. Our leaders, however, have differing opinions on your position in the Concordat. As the envoy gave the briefing, Rostova carefully studied the details, aware of the political tensions that lay beneath the surface. She was aware of the importance of the Krill, who had been defeated by the humans. Their opposition was a force that the humans would have to navigate. They spent the following weeks familiarizing themselves with the Concordat's inner workings. Rostova and her crew studied the language and customs of the different species, immersing themselves in their culture and learning their histories. They came to understand the complexity of the Concordat. They became aware of the threat of internal conflict. They were introduced to the deep-seated distrust of the Krill. As the weeks passed, the humans became an indispensable part of the Concordat. They shared their understanding of strategy, and their abilities were unmatched. The humans also shared their knowledge of technology. They had made a quantum leap in technology, and they were not going to hesitate in sharing it. The galaxy would be introduced to the most advanced technology in the universe. But, as they were sharing their knowledge, a message from the deep of space was received. It was a warning. The humans had discovered a dormant signal, an ancient transmission that had been sent from a distant galaxy, signaling a cosmic threat that could destroy everything. As the news spread through the Concordat, fear began to creep into the inner circles. Rostova and the rest of the humans were summoned to a special council meeting, where they were forced to explain the threat. The Grand Arbiter and the rest of the leadership of the Concordat listened intently as Rostova explained the nature of the threat. She spoke of the alien entities, of their immense power, and their desire to consume the galaxy. The council was shocked by the magnitude of the threat. Rostova, with the help of the human science team, had uncovered a vast amount of data about the threat. It included their technology, their tactics, and their weaknesses. "We need to prepare for war," she said. The Krill delegate, who had been silent for the duration of the meeting, finally spoke. "The humans have brought us this doom. They have brought an end to our world." A wave of dissent swept through the council. Some members agreed. They saw the humans as a danger, a threat that had to be contained. Others, however, saw a different reality. Envoy Lyra, representing the Xyler, spoke for the others. "The humans have also given us the means to fight back. Their knowledge and their expertise are unmatched. If we wish to survive, we must act together as one." A debate erupted. The council was split. The humans were on the hot seat. They had been tasked with saving the galaxy, and it was their moment. Rostova knew that the time for debate was over. She would have to force the council's hands. "We can argue," she said, her voice rising above the din, "or we can act. We can unite or we can perish. The choice is yours." As the tension in the room grew, the humans revealed their first secret. A secret that would make the galactic Concordat and the whole of the galaxy tremble in fear. The humans had developed a weapon that was unparalleled in its destruction and efficacy. A weapon that could change the tides of any battle. But it could also potentially destroy the galaxy. The weapon had been the work of the human scientific community. They had discovered how to manipulate the fabric of space-time, creating a weapon that could warp the forces of the universe. The council was stunned into silence. The Krill delegate began to click its mandibles again, but it did not speak. "This weapon, it is the key to our survival," Rostova said. The silence grew and grew. This was not the weapon of choice. This was not the weapon that anyone had expected, and it was the only way that the universe could be saved. "We will offer you our help. We will build you this weapon," Rostova said, and turned to the rest of the council. "But we must be united. We must trust one another. We must work together. Our survival depends on it." And so, as the council pondered the implications of Rostova's words, the human ships departed the conference. The weapon was going to be built, But it was not going to be built in the safety of a Concordat base. It would be built in an abandoned megastructure that the humans had discovered. The megastructure was a relic of a long-lost civilization, a monument to their ambitions. The humans had discovered it in a remote corner of space, and it would be the perfect place to start their preparations. As the human ship set off to the megastructure, the council erupted. The Krill, still hesitant to trust the humans, demanded that they be placed under surveillance. Envoy Lyra and the Xyler argued for caution and cooperation. The humans were not going to be deterred. The weapon would be built. The fate of the galaxy depended on it. Once the humans reached the abandoned megastructure, they began work immediately. Rostova and her crew gathered engineers and scientists. They began to work on building the weapon. It was an arduous task, requiring the most advanced technology and a deep understanding of the universe. The Krill, despite their distrust, grudgingly sent a small force of ships to help. As the weapon began to take shape, it became clear that it was far more than a weapon of war. It was a catalyst, a key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. The weapon could also unlock the potential of the humans, of the Krill, and of every other species that had to live through this. After months of work, the weapon was complete. It was ready. As the weapon came online, Rostova was forced to make a difficult decision. The weapon was so powerful that it could have a devastating effect. Its very activation could be the end of the galaxy. The choice had to be made. The Krill were also concerned about the potential for disaster. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" the Krill delegate asked Rostova. "There is no other way," Rostova replied. And so they activated the weapon. The moment of activation was a moment of profound silence. The megastructure was illuminated by a blinding flash of light. The weapon had unleashed a wave of energy, sweeping across the cosmos. The Krill were ready to launch a preemptive strike, but Rostova would not allow it. "Do not shoot," she said. "We need to see what happens." The weapon had activated. It had unleashed a wave of energy that would destroy the cosmic threat. It was the only way to save the galaxy. Then there was only silence. The signal was cut. The cosmic threat was gone. The weapon had saved the galaxy. The humans had saved the day. And as the remaining members of the council arrived at the megastructure, there was only a moment of quiet before the celebrations. The Krill finally expressed their gratitude to the humans. They realized they had been wrong about them. They saw their courage. They saw their ethics. They saw the value of their logic. Envoy Lyra thanked them as well. She knew that the humans had earned their place in the universe. They were no longer just a new species. They were a beacon of hope. The Grand Arbiter knew, as he turned to Rostova and offered his respect, that the humans had not only won the war, they had also changed the fabric of the galaxy. "You have shown us the true potential of our universe," the Grand Arbiter said. "You have taught us that we must be united, that we must look out for one another, that we must believe in something bigger than ourselves." As the humans celebrated their victory, they knew that their work was not yet complete. They had brought the galaxy together, but they had also opened the door to a new frontier. The universe was vast and full of secrets, and the humans were ready to explore it.